Everybody, welcome back to the Ball Does Lie podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Ryder, alongside my co-host, Amir. Amir, welcome in on this beautiful Saturday.
How are you doing, man? Happy
I'm
it's the
doing
weekend.
good, man. Yeah, we finally made it here. A lot of LaMelo Ball news. With the recent trade requests or trade rumors. Um, and a lot to talk about with LaMelo. First off, just wanna throw you some food for thought. Do you have any interest on LaMelo joining the Miami Heat for maybe a guy like Tyler Hero? Would that pique your interest as a Heat guy?
Such a tough question. I made a video on my Heat podcast around that saying that the Miami Heat should do it, and I was being facetious though. I'm open to it. Honestly, it depends on the trade package, but I don't know if it's worth it though. Honestly, for this Miami Heat team, like I understand his strengths, I understand his flaws. I don't know what his contract is. He's probably making what in the 40s. Got to be making at least if you could look that up while I'm talking. Um, his injury history, man. Like this guy is just always dealing with ankle sprains or fractures or reoccurring body issues. So the issues are one key aspect. He played 47 games last year, 22 the year before, 36 before that. Like so he's not on the court at a young age. That's very concerning. Like Tyler Hero's injury history was concerning, but he was missing more games than Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero's playing at least 55, 60 games, right? And I was upset about that with the exception of a couple seasons, but his ability to stay on the floor, that's a concern. His inefficiency this year, especially, oh my God, like this guy's a chucker and he's shooting 29% from three. Like he's a 36% 3-point shooter in his career on high volume, but like he's shooting 38%, as a guard from the field. Like 38 and 28 is or 29 is horrible. And I just don't think he's a winning player. I think he's immature. I think he's a child. So those are big issues I have to deal with, but his ability to play pick and roll, even though the Miami Heat have gotten away from that, we talked about it in other episodes where we're doing the least pick and rolls. Like we went from the most pick and rolls to like the least, and we're the fastest team in the NBA in the fourth quarter, in the clutch time, in the
he'll
playoffs.
definitely he'll definitely add to your pace. That's something LaMelo is great at. Him and his brother Lonzo have some of the best just throw ahead passes I've
He'll
ever
fit in
seen.
there. Yeah, he'll
But
fit in with the
I
pick
I
and roll stuff.
kind of
He'll dominate with the pick and roll. And
oh he
I'm
will.
saying, but I was gonna say to finish my thought, like in the playoffs and in the clutch time in the fourth quarter, like we're still going to do pick and roll. We're not going to get away from it just because it's not part of our offensive philosophy anymore. Him and Bam Adebayo, oh my God, that pick and roll and his passing and playmaking ability, like and his like ability to throw lobs to Bam and Khalil Ware would be so huge for the team. But like the dude is just like not a winning player, dude. I get it, he's on a crappy organization, but he's just like he's so immature and takes stupid shots and seems like he seems selfish. Like he doesn't seem
Yeah.
like
Well,
I don't know.
can the fabled Heat culture turn it around? I think that's another interesting portion of him going to Miami. Him and that Pat Riley kind of infrastructure. Will that help shape him up and get him to be more of a serious winning type of player? And then I gotta say, before I hand it back to you, him with Davion Mitchell as a backcourt is super interesting to me. A guy who is locked down as Davion is, paired with a guy as offensively creative as LaMelo, I think could be something. But again, he will take the ball away from your very interesting, high cutting offense you guys currently have. So it would
Yeah.
definitely shake things up. It would shake things up. And then just to get back to your contract question, he is after this season owed 3 years of his fully guaranteed rookie max. So you're looking at 40 million, 43 million, 46 million.
That's not bad. That's not bad because every year we're gonna see the newest, most paid athlete. Remember back in the day, it
Exactly.
was Mike Conley once.
That's
Back in the
right.
day, and then it was like it went from like that was the most egregious because that's just what the market rate was, and he was like the next up back in the day, like 10 years ago when he was in his prime, right? And then Bradley Beal got like the next one, and we're like, but what about KD and Steph and other Kawhi and all these other players that are way better than him, technically, but it's just like it depends on the market. And that's a decent contract because there's going to be guys in 3 years from now that are going to be making 55, 60, 65, 70, like the next whoever big star like the Anthony Edwards, like right when he goes for his next contract, like the guys like in the Anthony Edwards range, the superstars that are 22 to 26, like those guys are going to get insane contracts, right? So for him to be making 30 something this year, 30, 40 the next year, like that's way more manageable because Tyler Hero would be the centerpiece. And it's like, are you willing to give up Tyler, his efficient shooting, his fit with the team for someone like LaMelo? Like, does it raise the ceiling more than Tyler Hero? Let me ask you that question.
I think it raises your ceiling a little bit more. I think it also
By
lowers
how
your
much?
floor quite a bit. I think, well, God, that's a great question. It because the Heat are still so relatively unknown and how real their kind of start to the season is. I don't think we anticipated they would be hunting for a legitimate playoff spot. But I think
Yeah,
if you add
Hero hasn't even
LaMelo in
played
there,
yet. Hero hasn't even
yeah,
played yet.
that's true. But I think if you throw LaMelo into this mix, um, and you have the infrastructure around him that Miami does, I I think with LaMelo, this might be crazy to say. I think the Heat could make a run in the East. I just think they could. Maybe I'm a little bit naive in my belief in LaMelo Ball, but his shooting efficiency right now, I think we'll see that change. He does take some ridiculous shots, but it's early in the year. It's on a small sample size for this season. I think those numbers will continue to go up. He's still such a young player. And I think with the pieces that are around him in Charlotte, it's a lot more of a burden to have to carry that offensive load, which I don't think he'll have to do in Miami. Um, and if you're able to keep a guy like Davion Mitchell alongside him in that backcourt, it's a lot easier to hide him defensively. Um, and I think he gives you so much more variability in your offense because you can continue this really fun, fast paced, high cutting half court type of offense you guys have, but then your offensive pace is going to go up with him, and then now you have a guy like you were saying when it's crunch time, you can throw him the ball and say create something out of nothing. And LaMelo is definitely a guy that can create anything, whether it's good or bad, we'll see. But he's going to create something for somebody. Um, and I think a guy like him averaging 9.5 assists a game, pretty good rebounder for a guard. I think as a Miami fan, there's a lot to be intrigued by with LaMelo. I
Let
think
me
there
ask you
is.
this. Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't like him. I just don't like Lamelo. I understand the value, honestly, but yeah, that's a tough question for me to truly answer it. But I wouldn't be upset, perhaps, but we'll see. So, what do you think his trade value is? Because right now he hasn't demanded a trade. He's just showing his frustration, and he's been frustrated for at least 2 seasons now because he wanted more help and hasn't gotten it technically. So, what do you think his trade value is if he does demand and request a trade? Like, what leverage does Charlotte have at that point? You know what I mean? So, like, what could a trade look like to get Lamelo? How many picks do you think we have to throw in?
It's tough to say. I think Rudy Gobert's ruined the NBA trade market forever. No one knows what true value is anymore. But in today's day and age, I think netting 2 first-round picks for a guy like LaMelo is around what I would pin his value at. So there are a couple of teams that I think could pull this off, and some teams that I think would make for hilarious trade partners for a guy like LaMelo. My first one I have here is the Clippers. I think if the Clippers are so tired of this Kawhi Leonard experience, they decide to blow this thing up and reset.
They are
Now
tired of
this
it.
now this would also kind of mortgage their future and bet everything on LaMelo, but they could basically offer their 2030 and 2032 first round picks for LaMelo and a pick swap in 2031. Um, that could be somewhat intriguing, and who knows if there's going to be any more punishment coming from the league with this aspiration scandal the Clippers are currently in. But that could at least give you a fun young player to at least try to build around in the future. And then Dallas, as they look to trade AD, you could probably get some more capital back for that asset. I think AD could still net a pretty good return, even though he has a long injury history. But the Mavs also have their 2031 first rounder. They could give them a pick swap in 2032, and then whatever they get back for Anthony Davis, if they were to trade him, they could put towards LaMelo. And I think pairing LaMelo and Cooper Flag could be a really interesting duo, mixed with another high first rounder this season. I think they could be a pretty fun 1-2 punch in Dallas and give the Mavs fans something to at least look forward to in their future after trading away a generational player like Luca. But those are kind of those would be my two fun little trade partners with LaMelo right now. Um, we'll see. I think he can raise a ceiling, but again, like I said, I think that floor can potentially get a little bit lower as well.
I love you brought up Luca, and you mentioned his value. Going back to LaMelo, excuse me, his two draft picks, two first round picks minimum. Yet Luka Doncic only received one when he should have gotten at least five. Um,
Minimum, yeah.
you mentioned the Gobert piece too. But that's also different. It did kind of set the stage of like what the value was for trades, but he didn't demand or request a trade. So like if someone demands a trade, though, do you see a world where teams will only offer one pick for LaMelo, saying that he doesn't want to be there anyway, and you have to kind of trade him, otherwise he's going to sit out, or it's going to be detrimental to your team and vibes and all that stuff. Like, do you see his value perhaps going down to one pick and either a really good player that matches salaries because we have to deal with the first, second aprons now, or two like young players and a solid player? Like, what do you think that could look like in terms of leverage?
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why LaMelo hasn't come out strictly and demanded a trade so far. I'm sure people in Charlotte have probably gotten to him on that. Um, but if he does demand a trade, that can always be used as leverage. And Charlotte is not a place I think any player wants to currently be. No matter
Ever.
how fun Con Knipple looks and how fun some of the other pieces are in Charlotte. So of course, I think that for sure is going to play a factor if he's a guy that's going to demand a trade, especially with 3 years remaining after this season. Not a ton of leverage he can give other than I'm a disgruntled star. Get me out of here. And at that point, you're shooting your value in the foot. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I think LaMelo is a really additive player. It can help a lot of teams. It's just, can he become an adult within the next few years? That's kind of what you're betting on.
Yeah, let me give you one fun team I just thought of in my head, and this is going to piss off my friend Vonnig, who's a Rockets fan. So shout out to Vonnig. Um, say the Houston Rockets don't make a deep run again this season after adding KD, um, get knocked out in the second round. West is a freaking gauntlet, right? Like even playing the Warriors again could be tough for them, and I think they have more ammo now with Kevin Durant and Finney Smith, who we talked about on our episode of KTI, hasn't even played yet, and he's a wonderful 3-and-D kind of player. So I don't know if I expect that truly, but still, they're very capable of losing to a Lakers, losing to a Warriors, losing to a Nuggets or Thunder, right before they get to the Western Finals. So if they don't win this year and they have KD, I think for one more year, plus he's getting older, do they go all out for LaMelo? And they need a point guard. They want to be the biggest team right now. He's also a 6'7" point guard. You would continue to still have that crazy huge lineup. Could they trade away? Let's say, I don't know if this would work, but like they also have draft capital, right? I don't know what their pick situation is, but I know they probably have 2 to 4 first round picks they can offer. So two picks, maybe a Fred VanVleet, then you throw in like a Tari Eason. I know my friend Vonnie is going to kill me for this, and I'm doing
I
this
was
kind
gonna,
of on purpose because he hates Lamelo Ball. He thinks he's the he. You think I hate Lamelo Ball? Like, oh my god, if he
well,
was a Miami Heat
you
fan,
know who else I think hates LaMelo Ball is Ime Udoka. I don't think I think Ime's head would explode trying to deal with a guy like LaMelo. And I think since Fred VanVleet's out this season, if let's say they don't make a run, which I think the Rockets are the clear third best team in the NBA so far this season. They look
I
so
agree.
damn good. Um, I think they at least wait another year and let Fred come back and play. Because if you insert Fred VanVleet into this current roster, like I think they can compete with the Nuggets and maybe scare the Thunder. I think the Thunder still are just levitating over everybody.
Yeah,
But the Rockets, whether or not they do it this year, I think they do at least have Fred kind of in the back of their minds thinking, if we don't make a run this year, we have him next year. Let's just reload. And then KD with another year, Reed Shepard getting another year. Yeah, if I'm the Rockets, I'm staying away from LaMelo, if I'm being honest.
yeah. I didn't realize that that he's only 30. Fred VanVleet. I thought he was a little bit older. I thought he was like 33, 34. Maybe you can get rid of him.
No, still,
But
yeah, still young.
he's still young. And, 2 seasons ago when he joined the Rockets, this would have been his third season. He was averaging 17 and 8, like shooting 38% from three, like 8 assists, 17 points. Like he probably won't average that moving forward. He'll probably average something around 12 to 14 like he did last season. But his playmaking, he's not like a true floor general, but his playmaking will elevate this team. Like he's the closest thing they would have. No offense to Amen Thompson, who's obviously not a true point guard, but
No, then you can move him back into his natural position, and then you have a guy that can initiate offense. You don't have to have KD bringing the ball up the floor. You don't have to rely
exactly.
on like these huge minutes from Reed Shepard, who's been incredible, by the way. Like I know he had the first couple bad games to start the season, but Reed Shepard's been amazing, I think, to start this season. So the Rockets are scary to kind of look at it. I wouldn't want to play them. Any team with Steven Adams, Amin Thompson, I don't want to deal with any of that. And they just fit Ime Udoka's personality perfectly. And I think throwing LaMelo into that mix would throw all of that into chaos. So
True.
I'm staying away. Even though I love LaMelo, I do. But if I'm the Rockets, no, I'm good.
I could say that before you close, I could say the same about the Miami Heat. Eric
Okay.
Spoelstra, Pat Riley, like get the hell out of here. We don't want you don't. He doesn't fit into our system. So that's a thought that I had. Like, can Pat Riley, can we like whip him into shape, like to buy into our system? Who knows? But like that's another thing too. Like with his personality, like it's probably not just Ime. It's other top coaches too. Probably see his immaturity as well.
100%. But that talent's enticing. It's definitely enticing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we had for you guys today. Thank you so much, Amir, for joining me on this Saturday.
Yep. No problem.
And thank you guys for watching. If you like the content, please make sure you like and subscribe. Let us know other topics you want us to cover. And we'll see you next time.